All right. Dude, it's funny because sometimes I interview people and they're like, oh, I'm nervous to get on a podcast. I'm sitting in front of like one of the goats of podcasting. I should be the one nervous today. I mean, Danny Miranda, you've interviewed Andy Frisella, the Hormozis, Mike Posner. Like, you just crushed it. So excited to sit down with you, have you on the opposite side of the mic. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, all great people.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be in the same sentence as them.
Yeah, you're crushing it, man. Just watching your growth on social media, what you're doing in the Austin community is so admirable. And I see you as someone that really just dove into your passion and purpose, and you're impacting others, helping them find theirs, but also just being a leader, whether it's directly or just through social media, of like, hey, I see what Danny's doing. I want my life to look like that. I want to just break away from what society's telling me to do and find my passion, find my people, do what I love on a daily basis. So I want to open up starting with that, because you weren't always this way, correct? You weren't always like, I'm going to just do what's on my heart and find my purpose, because earlier in life, you're striving to this and you're getting to the moment of today, I'm doing what I love. What was that like, that transition that sparked you to say, I want to live a more passion-fueled life?
So I wasn't always this way, but when I was 15 years old, I had a New York Knicks blog. And the New York Knicks were a passion of mine since I was a kid. And I started a blog when I was 15 as a way to cover LeBron James, because I figured LeBron James, this is summer of 2010. He is going to go to either the Knicks, the Heat, back to the Cavs, or someplace else. And if he goes to the Knicks, and I'm a Knicks fan, the value of my blog is going to rise. Mm-hmm. So in June of 2010, I started a New York Knicks blog. I was 15 years old. By September of that year, he did not choose the New York Knicks, but from June, July, August, and September, every day I was blogging. Every day I was writing articles. I was interviewing people close to the team. And by the time September rolled around, the Knicks had this thing called Media Day. And Media Day is when you interview, all the reporters interview the players. So I applied. Said, you know what? I've got a blog. Mm-hmm. I've been covering this team for the past 3 months. Let me go down this route of understanding and interviewing the players that I've grown up watching. So I applied for Media Day. They accept me. Now, my mom is so excited. My dad says, wait, he can't skip school to go to Media Day. And my mom was like, no, he's going to go. So my mom, bless her heart, drove me from Long Island to Westchester, which is where Media Day was, and which is 45 minutes away. And I show up to Media Day and interview the players, and all of the reporters and the players themselves are looking me. They're like, who is this kid? I'm 15 years old at the time. I probably look like I'm 13. And I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I've been writing about this team for the past 3 months. You know, I've got 1,000 people who are tuning into my website every day. Mm-hmm. So it was in that moment when I go to Media Day and Newsday writes an article about me. New York Daily News writes an article about me. It's in that moment where I realize the school that I'm learning from is bullshit. Mm. Everything that these people worked their whole careers so that they could get this moment and opportunity to go to Media Day, and I'm 15 years old.
Walked right in.
And I walked right in? Are you kidding me? You are capable of far more than you realize if a 15-year-old can get to that place. And it clicked in my head in that moment. It's like, I'm never going to not follow what I love. Mm. Because if I'm 15 years old and I can get to this room, I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah. Did it discourage you at all after that LeBron doesn't go to New York? Or you're like, hey, the dream's over. I don't know what to do with my blog. Like, what was that like?
Well, I would imagine, because I continued, that it wasn't, the Knicks got Amari Stoudemire in that free agency bonanza, and there was some hope and optimism around the team for the first time in a long time. So it didn't hurt me so much, but it was disappointing. But I knew I was enjoying the process of writing, and I knew I was enjoying the process of interviewing people and connecting with people. Mm-hmm. So I stayed with it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Outside of the media blog, did you get a job after this? What was life like?
So when I was 16 or 17, I was like, okay, if I fast forward this road down maybe 10 years, I'm going to end up on ESPN. And I'm going to be writing for ESPN. And I said to myself, that's not something I want. That's not something I want, because that is making the players more important than myself. And in my head, that's how I framed it. And I realized that I was more than just a sports writer. And I knew if I was going down that road, I was going to try to become the best sports writer. So I said, I'm not sold on this. So I'm going to stop doing this. And I stopped listening to myself. I went down the traditional path. I went to college, in the sense, but in the back of my mind, the whole time I'm saying to myself, there's more. Like, there's more for me. I know this is not the right route, and I'm just trying to do this to appease my parents. I graduate college, and I was like, I'm going back to what I was doing before, and I'm going to do what I enjoy, or I'm going to make money my own way. So I started setting up e-commerce stores online, and I started to make a lot of money really quickly. And I was like, this is awesome. Within 6 months of that, I moved from my parents' house to San Diego. And I'm living the dream in San Diego, and life's great, until I realize, wait, I'm not actually fulfilled at all doing what I'm doing. So I stop. I stop making all this money from drop shipping and e-commerce and teaching other people that. And I sit back for a second. What do I actually want? What's actually fulfilling? And I started doing 75 hard at that time. And I started building and building and building and building. And personal trainer at first. And then I was like, I don't think personal training's it. I'm just continuing to listen. Listen to the call, right? Your life is telling you something in this moment. In one moment it was telling me be a personal trainer, and the next it was saying that's a dumb idea. That's not actually the greatest manifestation of your gifts. And so 6 months after that, I started a podcast, and I loved doing that, and just kept love doing that until I didn't 3.5 years later, and started coaching. So it's a never-ending, evolving process. And I just gave you my whole life story in about 10 minutes, baby. But the point is, I've always been listening.
Yeah.
And there have been moments when I haven't, but listening to my heart and listening to what I feel is the appropriate action I should take in that present moment is what I'm here to do. It's what we're all here to do, whether we realize it or not.
And you had a glimpse of this at 15. Where does that wisdom and intuition come from? Was it parents? Was it God? Was it a mentor? Like how, because most 15-year-olds, they're worried about playing Little League Baseball.
Yeah. So at 12, I was worried about playing Little League Baseball. Yeah. And I wrote a blog when I was 12 detailing the team. And so we would have a game, and then I'd write the report about the game. And I was like, that's pretty fun. But the audience for people who aren't interested in that blog, is it's only the parents and the players of the team. Let me expand it. So at 13, I created a time management blog on how to help people use their time most effectively.
At 13?
At 13. So the point is, this has been in me. It's been in me to write, to spread messages, to learn from people, to connect people. I love my parents, but I cannot give them credit for saying that is the reason why they gave me the computer, and I used the computer to create something with it. And I don't give any credit to myself for that. That's just the body and mind that I was born into and using my talents effectively. So I give credit to God for that.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't control that. Could have been born anywhere.
That's incredible. Why don't people listen to that intuition more? Because you see so many people, we talked about it just briefly before this, they're lost and they're just going with the waves of society and getting jobs they don't love or moving places that they don't like to be in, relationships, the list goes on. Why do you think more people don't listen to their heart, their body, and say, I need to go down this path instead?
You've been trained your whole life to not listen to it. Oh, this science class is more important than what you feel you should do. This career is more important than making money is more important than what you actually care about. It's widespread and rampant. I think about my life and how much time I spent partying because that is what society had deemed cool. going out and drinking. It's like the reason why we're lost is because nobody is telling you to look inside yourself, because that doesn't make money in the short term. Who makes money off somebody meditating? Calm does, the Calm app, and waking up with Sam Harris. And they're starting to figure that out. But for the most part, people make money when you're in their world, when you're in Coca-Cola's world, when you're in Facebook's world, when you're, and you could use all these things for you or against you, but you have to ask yourself, if my attention is so valuable that people are willing to spend billions of dollars on advertisements in order to get it, how come I'm not giving it to myself?
Was there a realization when you first found that out?
It was September 2019, and I was depressed out of my mind. And I was saying to myself, how come I'm chasing money and how come I'm chasing the external validation of others when I'm not focused on what I actually care about? What do I actually care about? What do I want? When it's not working out, you start to question everything when you think you got the gold medal. And I had the gold medal I was making $10,000 a month, living in San Diego with 3 of my friends. I was living the dream. And then it wasn't actually the dream that I wanted. So I stopped and I started meditating. And I started to really sit down with my thoughts every morning for 20 minutes. Just listen. What would arise when nothing was present? That's the question.
Yeah.
And I continually ask myself those questions over and over and over again. What arises when nothing is present? Something's going to come up. And that's something I found is the voice of God.
What was the spark to say, I want to meditate? And those first experiences, was it a struggle to get into deep thought and to relax? Because I mean, I've meditated before, and like starting is tough because 2 minutes in, you're thinking about what to do next. And 5 minutes in, you're like, let me look at the clock, you know?
Yeah.
How is that getting into it and actually building the habit?
So in the same moment that I started meditating, I started doing 75 hard. It was the same 75 hard, for those of you who don't know, our 75-day program created by Andy Frisella, where for 75 days straight, you take a progress picture, read 10 pages of a nonfiction or self-help book. You do 2 workouts. One of them has to be outside, 45 minutes each. You read 10 pages of a book and follow a diet. No alcohol, no cheat meals. This is ingrained in me. This is part of me. And when I was meditating every day, I was also building the discipline with 75 hard. And so doing both simultaneously allowed me to feel I don't have a choice. I'm going to be here for 20 minutes. And whatever comes up is what's supposed to come up. And people think they're doing meditation wrong when it's, okay, I'm thinking about thoughts and I want the clock to end. Well, that's like you doing 20 minutes of running and thinking you want it to end because you're out of shape.
Yeah.
Great. That's part of the process. And if you persist through the 20 minutes over and over and over again, day after day after, something is going to change. You are going to gain awareness of your life. And because I was building the mental discipline, doing 75 hard, meditating became easy.
Yeah. You swear by meditation. You talk about it a lot. Why is it so important to you, doing it consistently over years now?
You gain awareness when you sit down and witness nothing. You gain awareness when you just see your mind work in the ways that it works. It makes you take yourself less seriously, and it also allows you to know what the most important thing is for you in any given time. Just sitting with nothing allows you to be, and it allows you to be the best version of yourself, because something's going to come up. You're going to witness yourself and how you show up and the things you like about yourself and things you don't, and your insecurities, and you can realize and see how your life has changed. It's the most important thing I've ever done in my entire life, is to sit down and just be. You're talking about a culture that is all about the external facing. I'm encouraging you to go inward, look internal. I mean, what role has meditation played in your life?
It's just good to, like you said, slow down and see what comes up. And it's also, like you said, the whole society right now is all external. It's almost like when I started, you have to like schedule it almost. Like, hey, it has to be part of my morning routine or else I'm not going to do it. And because if you don't be mindful of this is part of my day, it's a habit, you just get pulled in different directions. I got to work, I got to work out, I got to respond to messages, I got to go on social media. Next thing you know, you're like, I've done nothing for myself. And when you really slow down, like when I first started, I was in high school and I was like, I feel like I'm just stressed, I don't know what's going on. And like I just heard about meditation for the first time. I would just go on YouTube, like these little like guided sounds for 15-20 minutes, turn my lights off, and I would just like sit. And like the next hour I was like, I've never felt like this. It was incredible. And I have not been consistent with it my whole life, but like when I need it, I go back to it. And it's amazing. I think the beautiful thing about meditation is it can come in so many different variations.
Sure.
It can come through praying, it can come through walking, it can come through just sitting on the chair by yourself and just, I need some time to decompress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that sounds like such an important method for people to start with as well. If it seems too complicated or difficult, throw on some music that you enjoy, that's soothing and relaxing. I think meditation has played such a big role because since the time I was 12 or 13, I've had access to the internet. It's been the other people's perspectives coming at me. And our generation of people are used to always being on and always having a message to look at or always having something outside of themselves that they can see at all times. And so meditation reminds you the truth of, okay, you're looking at all that stuff out there, but really how you're filtering all of that is inside.
Yeah, I love that. Do you do guided meditations? Are you all on yourself? What's your method?
I have the app called Insight Timer.
Okay.
And I like it because it tracks some of the stats. And I just sit there and watch or listen to whatever arises in my mind. There's no sense of, I haven't done a guided meditation in a while because for me, the purpose of meditation is to listen to myself and hear what is going to arise. It's what's worked for me.
Yeah, I love that. Today, people see you on Twitter a lot. You're writing, you're sharing your thoughts, and you're getting a lot of traction just by, like, this is Danny. You know, this is what I'm thinking. And people resonate with it, mostly because a lot of people aren't writing like you and speaking like you and raising awareness on topics that people in society just don't talk about. You've had the experience writing about sports, and then you've had e-commerce. Like, you had some business and sports experience. When did you say to yourself, I want to talk more about personal development, mindset, mindfulness?
Yeah, so in some sense, it's always been in me since I was 13, writing about time management. And I think what's happened is it's been an evolution to get back to that point. The layers of us go deep, and there are so many external facing ways in which we might like to show up or be perceived. Maybe it's as a podcaster, maybe it's as a fitness person, maybe it's as somebody who's interested in e-commerce, or for other people it might be music. Or I think at the core of it, all down to the core, I'm just somebody who's trying to recognize the truth of my experience. And personal development and understanding myself and understanding truth and understanding love is really, that's the bedrock for everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm really somebody who's just trying to make the most out of my time on earth. And my writing is just a way for me to put the things that are in my head that come up during meditation or walks or conversations with friends. And it's just a way to express it. And sometimes that's about podcasting, and sometimes that's about sports, and sometimes that's just about me building out a table, you know?
Yep.
So just trying to share my experience.
That's amazing. And you've evolved into doing retreats, coaching. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome throughout all of this?
Imposter syndrome is just insecurity, right? I think Gary Vaynerchuk said that one time, and it really resonated. And I would say the moment of insecurity that was the biggest for me with all this was when I broke up with my girlfriend. We broke up, and it was such a difficult experience because I felt like, wow, I thought I was going to marry this person, and that sent me into a spiral of complete unknown and complete, what am I doing with my life? And is what I'm talking about true? And is how I'm coaching people correct? And why is this situation hurting me so much? And so the biggest moments of insecurity happened in the month after that, where I felt to myself, what do I even do to get out of this? Mm-hmm. Right? Because of how, when we have events that break our worldview or break what we expect or know, it's troubling. It was troubling for me.
Mm-hmm. How do you navigate out of that?
Well, you go to friends and people who you trust and respect, and you go back to the basics. Went back to doing 75 hard, mm-hmm. After a month and a half. Yeah. Because I knew that I've been down before. And what did I do when I was down? Just did the program.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really important for me. And it helped. I'm on day 47 of 75 hard. So some ways out. And I could see the change and the transformation. Because I've also been doing a daily video series of just what I'm up to on YouTube and Twitter. And yeah, I definitely felt a lot of insecurity then, but I felt like I had amazing friends. I have an amazing support system. I know what I need to do, and I don't want to do it at all, but let me try.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you touched on the support system. Going back to living in San Diego, you're making 10 grand a month doing e-commerce. You're living in an awesome location, living with 3 friends. What did they say when you're like, this is not for me, I need to stop what I'm doing, maybe it's moving, whatever? They're like, Danny, you're crazy? Or were they like, hey, yeah, go for it?
I don't remember it being much of a conversation. I don't typically go to, I don't remember going to them in that moment and being like, what should I do? Or am I crazy? Mm-hmm. I just remember trusting myself and really knowing okay, this just doesn't feel right. If something doesn't feel right, you don't need somebody else to be like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Like, you don't go to somebody else when it just doesn't feel right. So it's like, trust yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't remember what they said or what they thought or believed. And I think people get so caught up on that sometimes. Yeah. What are my friends going to think? What are they going to do? It's like, doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going back to the insecurity, I think there's just something hiding inside of you. It's why would you have to consult with other people? Why do you need that validation? Because you're not sure of yourself,
right,
and your path that you want to go on. So you want people to say, yeah, do it. So you're like, okay, yeah, I was right. Or if they give you doubt, like, oh, they're right, I need to just push that off. And then you just never find your purpose.
That's right. And it all comes down to listening to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what meditation is for me, listening to myself. So if you want to build self-trust, start listening to yourself and acting on the advice that yourself is giving you.
That's good. What do you look for in a support system now here in Austin?
Other people who know how to trust themselves.
How can you find that?
By becoming that person first.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, because my friends now are amazing people, and I know that if they're in a room alone, they can make a decision about their own life.
Yeah.
And people who can't do that are not people I want to be friends with. So imagine a friend is coming to you every day and asking you to validate their decision. I mean, that friendship is not going to last very long in my current world.
Right.
It definitely would have lasted long when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. But that's just a reflection of, your friends are just a reflection of who you are. My friend Elle has got this great saying, you bring your state with you. What does that mean? Well, she hosts a community walk, and 100 plus people show up to this walk. She's done over 100 walks, and it's every Saturday at Banu Coffee in Austin, Texas. Definitely come to it because they're amazing people. And she's noticed that people bring their state. Meaning, if they bring a friend to the walk, the friend that they bring is often similar to them energetically, because you bring your state with you wherever you go. And for me, the fastest way to get into a different state is to meditate consistently.
Yeah.
Right? So
It comes back to it.
yeah, because you're gaining awareness about your life, about yourself, which allows you to energetically show up differently.
That's so good. And your support system, your friends, like you have your core group that you look to and you guys bond, but you're also seen as a leader in this community. You host runs, you do different things in the community that people are like, I aspire to be like Danny. I look up to him and I want to be around him in proximity. How do you view that? Does that give you pride? Does that give you anxiety of like, hey, people are relying on me, sort of?
Yeah. What's been awesome, in one sense, so there's a lot here. I just do me, and then the world kind of facilitates its way to doing me. And meaning I enjoy running. And so, okay, I enjoy running. Let me run with other people.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm running with other people, and now, 20, 30 people are showing up to run on Tuesday morning. It's like, this just started because I enjoy running, and I wanted to do it with others. And so there's no pressure on myself or pride in myself for being, I'm a leader. I'm somebody people look up to. I'm just a guy who enjoys running and now is hosting other people to enjoy running with him.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no pressure on myself from that aspect. What's cool is, you mentioned the responsibility piece. When I was going through that tough time in May and June, there were people who filled in. And so I didn't show up to every run. Maybe 4 out of the 8 run clubs that we had for the next 8 weeks after that breakup happened, I showed up to. And because there were other people that filled in while I was nursing a broken heart. So I'm really grateful for that. And the feeling of, just because I'm leading people doesn't mean I have to be there in every moment.
Sure.
There's no pressure on myself.
Yeah, that's
There's
amazing.
just gratitude.
Well, that's awesome for you too. There's
Yeah.
just people around you that want to support. And
Yeah.
they're really good people. One thing that's a huge passion of yours is your podcast, and it really took off. And I remember I was hearing you speak on another podcast, and you said when you started it, you're like, I'm going to dive into this. And you did 20 interviews in 30 days.
That's right.
Which is incredible. For anyone listening that started a podcast, wanted to start one, like, it's tough to even start one, but to go that far into it, where you're like, I'm doing basically one a day, it's very rare. And you're already putting yourself in the top 1%. What sparked you 3.5 years ago to start the podcast and now take it to where it is today?
I just loved it. I loved having conversations with people. And I put out on Twitter in June of 2020, who wants to talk on the phone? And I had amazing conversations with people that I said, I'm going to record this. And I did. And I started recording them. And initially the podcast was just Skype calls that were audio only. So basically phone calls to keep the production low, because I was learning a new skill. So I didn't want to go into it trying to master every aspect of the process. If I'm going to do this for a while, let me just start with the basics. And so I just started doing audio only calls. I loved it. People loved it. It was an amazing way for me to connect people and to learn from people, and for them to learn from me. And it's been a process of understanding myself and helping myself grow. And I'm very grateful for the podcast. I'm very grateful to have started it. It's interesting because in this moment, it's not such a passion, and it's not such a thing that is so exciting to me. And I'm open to it being in the near future. I'm open to it coming back.
Yeah.
But I haven't been posting episodes as frequently, and I don't have as much excitement around it, because I found this thing called coaching that I love, which is what, when I was doing the podcast, were the episodes that I felt most alive, was when I could coach somebody or ask them a question that could change their worldview or expand their perspective in a new way. So
That's good. Well, I want to stay on this topic, but going back, you said you post on Twitter, I'm going to open up phone calls.
yeah,
Where'd that come from?
just what was on my heart and mind at the time.
Yeah.
I was doing 75 hard. I was meditating every day for 60 minutes. And I said to myself, this is June 2020. COVID is happening. There are a lot of people suffering and hurt. And I feel amazing. And I want to help people. And maybe my joy for life could help somebody in some way. That's where it came from. And I just started doing it.
Yeah. How were those conversations?
They were amazing, man. I mean, it was so beautiful. People learning about people all over the world and learning about their situation, learning what they were struggling with or they were succeeding at. And I felt so great doing it. So I was like, let me keep doing this. What is a recorded conversation? Oh, that's called a podcast.
Yeah.
It's first principles, the very like trying to understand this and trying to live in this in the most basic way and trying to build on what you love. That's following your voice, right? That's following your truth. If you do anything, what would you do? That's the question.
Yeah.
And why would that ever change? Like in the sense of why would you stop asking yourself that question, right? Why would you stop? Because you might be nervous. You might have felt like I built up this thing. I need to protect it. Or it's like, okay, well that changed. So.
Yeah, I love that. And your podcast it's huge. And the main reason is because you're so good at interviewing. And you even dropped a course teaching people how to interview better. That has led you to huge interviews because people are just like, I respect how he does his work. You have clips of like some heavy hitters saying like, Danny, you're crushing this. Like, thank you for doing the research and everything. Where did that come from? Were you like, I'm going to study interviewing and communication and psychology, or was this just inside of you? Like, I'm just curious and I want to have a great, genuine conversation.
Yeah, it was the curiosity piece of it. I have to give credit to my dad, when I was growing up, we would meet somebody or we'd see someone on the news and he'd instantly come up with 10 facts about the person. I'd be like, Dad, how do you know that? And when it was a friend of mine or somebody in my world, I was like, Dad, stop stalking my friends. And what I realized is that I have the same thing.
Yeah.
This thirst for information and for people, and this thirst for connection with people, and the understanding of, okay, you have this person here. How does that connect to the big picture? What has that person done with their life? Why did that person choose to do this podcast at this time? What's going on? And what are some interesting things? Where did they grow up? And how does that shape their worldview? And so my dad has this. And when I started doing the podcast, I realized, oh, I have this too. I naturally just want to look people up, get curious about them, be interested. And then it's not stalking in my mind because I'm a reporter and I'm supposed to know the facts and I'm knowing the facts of my subject. So it naturally went into my own curiosity and my own skills. And yeah, that's kind of why the deep research happened and why but at the core of it, like, is a real sense of love for life and love for the present moment. And that's the energy that people feel. And that is the excitement. And that's the joy that makes them believe. I could be doing the same exact research, but if I'm coming in with less joy and less love for life, that person on the other end is going to be like, it's okay, But it's the joy and the love for life that is the secret sauce. And that comes from following the intuition, following the voice.
Yep. That's great. The best part about podcasting, I think you can agree with this, is yes, you can reach thousands of people per episode. You can have great conversation, a great guest, the title looks good content, but also like as the interviewer, you have access to amazing people and you're learning yourself. Like right now, like I'm fired up to sit down with you and just like pick your brain on different things. Like, yes, it's going to reach an audience, but I'm like, right now we're just one-on-one talking. Like this is great for myself as well. What have you learned from other people, or like maybe what was the most powerful experience in an interview on your podcast?
When I interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk for episode 39, and I start the episode by explaining to him, I was 15 years old and I had a Knicks blog at the time, and I wanted to go to your book signing, but I couldn't go. because my mom said it was a school night. And I sent you a message on Twitter and said, add Gary V. I want to go to your book signing, but I can't. My mom said it's a school night. And you DM me and you said, what's your mom's number? And you called her on the spot and convinced her to allow me to come to the book signing.
Wow.
The look on his face was, oh my God, you're that kid?
Wow.
And that was 10 years after, right? And there's something special about full circle moments where you can really tell somebody that has impacted you in a deep way how much they meant to you. I mean, that moment, I'm 3 months into my podcasting journey, and Gary Vaynerchuk's coming on the podcast, and I get to tell him that story. It's like, this is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
I love podcasting. You know, I don't know how I got into this room, but I'm loving this room. So that's one that comes to mind initially. But if I went through every episode, there's millions of, you know, it's really remarkable how you could just go through one episode and pick out 10 things from one.
Sure. Yeah. One thing I want to highlight is your conversation with Mike Posner, because you posted how much of an impact he had on you. And it was another full circle moment. I remember you posted on Twitter back then, you're like, this guy's like changed my life. And now I get to talk to him. And you're sharing that experience like, dude, like, this is incredible. Like, you've impacted me in this way. So what was that like?
Mike Posner, it was so cool meeting him because he's such a great dude. And the moment that I met him, I was in such a great place in my life, and so was he. And we had, you know, sometimes when in the past, when I had somebody who really impacted my life, I put them on a pedestal and make them greater than me in some way. And in this moment, I was just like, I love me and I love you, and let's have a great episode. And it just turned into this 2-hour connection is really the best way I could put it, where I got to really understand him better, connect with him, really share and explain to him how much he meant to me. And the best thing that came from that episode was within the first 5 minutes. And that was me asking him what song or piece of work has impacted his life the most. And he gave me this song called The Blessing that he's like, I listen to 3 times a day. I have not stopped listening to The Blessing. And it is the greatest song. And I've been replaying that song, The Blessing, over and over and over and over again, to the point where my friend Talia got me a poster. It's probably like I don't know, size of this table, maybe half the size of this table, where it's got the lyrics to The Blessing on it. And because I listen to this song so much and I love it. For people who aren't aware, The Blessing is a song by, I think, some worship artists, and you got to get the YouTube version. Just search The Blessing, Carry Job on YouTube, and it's got 100 million plus views.
Wow.
And probably 1 million of those are me, because I'm just nonstop eating up The Blessing. I love it so much.
Your Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year is like The Blessing 2, 3, 4, 5. It's empty.
That's it. That's completely it.
It's the only thing you do. That's amazing. It's amazing to see you just following your passion, but like being connected to cool people, and like those full circle moments. You can't compare it to anything.
No.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah.
Absolute best.
One thing that you're, again, very passionate about is raising consciousness.
Yes.
So you post about this a lot. Someone might think of, like, hear that and be like, what the hell does that mean? So
That's fair.
First off, let's just set the foundation. What is consciousness? Why do you want to raise it?
Consciousness to me is awareness. And awareness is on a spectrum of different emotions. And I read the book Maps of Consciousness Explained by David Hawkins, and it completely shattered everything that I thought I knew, and it made so much sense. In one sense, I was like, where was this information my whole life? In another, I was like, I've always known this. Basically what it is, it's a chart showing how different emotional states, peace, love, and joy, they hold a higher energetic frequency than emotions like guilt and shame. And that's not to denigrate those lower emotions, guilt and shame and anger and fear. Those play important pieces in living in joy and peace, because in order to get to the place of joy and peace, you need to look at every place you're feeling guilt and shame and anger and fear towards and actually process it and work through it. But consciousness is, or consciousness, as David Hawkins explains it, is awareness of these different levels of emotions. And how he explains how somebody living above the line of courage is living in an entirely different reality, a reality of truth, than somebody who is living below the line of courage. And somebody living in fear, if your predominant emotional state is fear, that is going to be a way different life than someone whose predominant emotional state is love. Mm-hmm. So, Map of Consciousness Explained by David Hawkins is my favorite book on this topic, and is very important. It's a very important read, I believe, for every human to go through if they're interested in it.
Yeah. There's some times in life where you meet someone and you just think to yourself, this person's different. I don't know why. Something different about them. Is that what it refers to?
Often. Yes, I would say so. I think that's a great way to put it. That explanation, different could mean so many different things.
Yeah.
And you could look at Michael Jordan and be like, that dude's different, right? You could look at someone who is super smart and be like, that dude's different. I think what consciousness refers to is somebody who's extraordinarily loving. And I think that's where he is trying to point people based on his work. If you see somebody and you're like, they have a big heart, or wow, they have a lot of emotional space for others, that is what I believe he is helping people to accomplish and achieve.
Yeah. How quickly can you pull that out of someone? Like, understand where they are on the chart. Like, say someone comes to your run club, meet them for the first time. Are you like, boom, I know where they are?
That's a good question. I feel as if I have a general sense, but I don't. It's not a judgment thing.
Yeah.
As well. I think we all have a sense for this scale where it's like, oh, like I could see that person's loving, or I could see that person is really upset. So we all have an intuitive sense. And as you become more and more loving, I believe your intuitive sense for this heightens, and you become more aware of, because you can see yourself in different people, right? Yeah. It's not a judgment thing as well. It's more just a understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Good perspective. One thing in society today is people are so divided and lost and confused. There's wars going on worldwide. There's political divide in our country. There's spiritual warfare going on all over the world. People are, like I said, lost. Like they don't have the connection that they should. They don't have the career or the passion that they really should have. What is lacking in today's society when you look around us?
Dude, what a big question. Because of the screens, there's both more information about other people and less understanding and compassion for those people. So if you have the understanding that somebody's going through X, Y, Z situation, that increases your level of awareness, but it could also make you upset at that person. And so what I think we're going through at this time is, how do we hold all of the world's perspectives at the same time in our minds? And how can we filter the things that we need from all of the information in this moment? Right? You just listed off a lot of stuff. I mean, you got election, you got wars, there's so much information in this world, and the world is telling you need to know all of it.
Yeah.
And you need to understand all of it. And in one sense, I believe we should all be as knowledgeable as we possibly can. In another sense, I'm not going to know all of the world's problems, and I don't expect that of myself. So what's the problem with society today? I mean, like,
How much time we got?
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm grateful for people like you just to be a voice of reason. Like, just change it up, because you just watch the news or you go on TikTok, everything just seems so negative.
Yeah.
And you're like forced down this path of negativity and all these current events. And here's why you should be scared. There's a lot of fear going on.
Yeah.
It's less about us. It's more about negativity
That's right.
outside of us. And it's hard to block that out and say, no, what's actually going on inside of me? Like, what would make me happy right now?
Yeah. The focus on self allows you to be selfless. How are you going to help somebody be happier if you yourself are not happy?
Yeah.
And what is your purpose in trying to stop all of the things that you're trying to stop and spread awareness about? Somebody spreading awareness from love is a lot different than somebody spreading awareness through fear. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the awareness is coming in as fear, because that is going to get the most attention, the most eyeballs, and the most people looking at it. And so you have to be aware of all this stuff and say to yourself, okay, I know the world is trying to get me to pay attention to their thing. And I know the most important thing is my own body and mind. Why? Because I'm in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Can't get away from it.
You can't get away from yourself.
Yeah.
So when you see the thing attacking you from fear, you know, okay, that person is coming from fear. Oh, okay, that person is trying to get a reaction. This person is upset themselves. This person, and so I am very content to be ignorant of the world's problems. Mm-hmm. Because I know if I'm not coming from a great place, I am not going to be able to solve any of it. And I'm working to get myself into a great place.
Yeah.
And I'm here for people. I'm here for the world. But I cannot solve some of those problems today. So I'm going to focus on myself.
So good. I have 3 more questions for you that I ask every guest. So I'd love to get your perspective. First off being, how do you define success?
Getting what you want. What do you want out of life? Success is, did you get what you wanted?
Yeah. What happens when there's resistance? How do you keep pushing forward and not go back, towards the grain of society and just be like, I give up?
Well, what other choice do you have? Right? There were times when I was going through this breakup where I was like, I just want to get a regular job. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be aware to the things that I know about myself.
Yeah.
But what other choice did I have? Right? What other choice did I have when I faced that resistance? Oh, I could stop. I could stop doing what I'm doing, get a normal job, blend in with society, just drink on weekends. But once you're aware, you're just like, I can't go back.
Yeah. The point of no return.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is something you believe in that most people would disagree with?
That the world that you see is filled in based on your predominant emotional state. So me and you could be looking at the same world, the same pieces of news, but we are going to filter that news completely differently, and thus we are going to live in completely different worlds. So most people believe we're all looking at the same world. My belief, we're not looking at the same world.
Yeah.
We're looking at the world through our own eyes. And our own eyes is based on our emotional experience and our emotional adeptness and our skill. And you can raise that.
Yeah.
You can increase that, but you have to look. You have to look at the places you're weak.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. For someone listening to this that they want to achieve success, they don't know how to get there, what path to go on, what is one piece of advice you leave that person with?
You can't lose if you keep going. And everybody respects effort. I was taught when I was growing up, or I naively believed that showing effort was not cool. Yeah. And it was cool to just show up to the job and after not studying. And I mean, how often do people talk about, even today, I didn't even study for the tests when I was in college and I did so well, as if that's something to be proud of. No, what's worthy of being proud of is working hard and doing the things in your control to absolutely turn over every rock and to make sure that you are in the best position to succeed.
Yeah.
So you can't lose if you don't quit, and work harder than you think, and and good things will happen because effort is amazing.
Yeah. Hard work and meditation.
Yes.
Add them both.
The warrior and the monk.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's perfect. Danny, it was just such a pleasure having you here. I appreciate all of your wisdom, and I really think this is going to make a huge impact. And I just encourage you, keep spreading your words around, whether it's in person, social media. I think this is really lacking in society. So keep going, because you never know what lives you can change around you.
I appreciate you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yep.